Go share the screen. Everybody see that?
Mhm. Yes.
All right. All right, we got chapter 9, persistence. The sustained effort necessary to induce faith, the 8th step towards riches. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into the monumentary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. Men who accumulate great fortunes are generally known as cold-blooded and sometimes ruthless. Often, they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower. Which they mix with persistence and place back of their desires to ensure the attainment of their objectives. Henry Ford has been generally misunderstood to be ruthless and cold-blooded. This misconception grew out of Ford's habit of following through in all of his plans with persistence. The majority of people are ready to throw their arms and aims and purpose overboard and give up at the first sight of opposition or misfortune. A few carry on despite all oppositions until they attain their goal. These few are Fords, Carnegies, Rockefellers, and Edisons. There may be no heroic connection to the word persistence, but the quality is in the character of the man what carbon is to steel. The building of a fortune generally involves the application of the entire 13 factors of the philosophy. These principles must be understood. They must be applied with persistence by all who accumulate money. If you are following this book with the intention of applying the knowledge it conveys, your first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to follow the 6 steps described in the 2nd chapter. Unless you are one of the 2 out of 100 people who already have a definite goal at which you are aiming and a definite plan for attaining, you may read the instructions and then pass on with your daily routine and never comply with those instructions. The author is checking you up at this point because lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure. Moreover, experience with thousands of people have proved that lack of persistence is a weakness common to the majority of men. It is a weakness which may be overcome by effort. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered would depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a strong fire under your desire. Continue to read through to the end, then go back to the chapter 2 and start immediately to carry out the instructions given in connection with the 6 steps. The eagerness with which you follow these instructions will indicate clearly how much or how little you really desire to accumulate money. If you find that you are indifferent, you may be sure that you have not yet acquired the money consciousness, which you must possess before you can be sure to accumulate a fortune. Fortunes gravitate to men whose minds have been prepared to attract them, just as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. In this book may be found all the stimuli necessary to attune any normal mind to the vibration which will attract the object of one's desire. If you find you are weak in persistence, center your attention upon the instructions contained in the chapter on power. Surround yourself with a mastermind group, and through the cooperative efforts of the members in this group, you can develop persistence. You will find additional instructions for the development of persistence in the chapters on autosuggestion and the subconscious mind. Follow the instructions outlined in these chapters until your habit nature hands over to your subconscious mind. A clear picture of the object of your desire. From that point on, you will not be handicapped by lack of persistence. Your subconscious mind works continuously while you are awake and while you're asleep. Spasmodic or occasional effort to apply the rules which will be of no value to you. To get results, you must apply all of the rules until their application becomes a fixed habit with you. In no other way can you develop the necessary money consciousness. I'll take up Dave for a minute.
Sure. Poverty is attracted to the one whose mind is favorable to it, as money is attracted to him whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it. And through the same laws, poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind which is not occupied with the money consciousness. A poverty consciousness develops without conscious application of habits favorable to it. The money consciousness must be created to order unless one is born with such a consciousness. Catch the full significance of the statements in the preceding paragraph, and you will understand the importance of persistence in the accumulation of a fortune. Without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start. With persistence, you will win. If you have ever experienced a nightmare, you will realize the value of persistence. You are laying in bed half awake with a feeling that you are about to smother. You are unable to turn over or to move a muscle. You realize that you must begin to regain control over your muscles. Through persistent effort of willpower, you finally manage to move the fingers of one hand. And by continuing to move your fingers, you extend your control to the muscles of one arm until you can lift it. Then you gain control of the other arm in the same manner. You finally gain control over the muscles of one leg and then extend it to the other leg. Then, with one supreme effort of will, you regain complete control over your muscular system and snap out of your nightmare. The trick has been turned step by step. You may find it necessary to snap out of your mental inertia through a similar procedure, moving slowly at first, then increasing your speed until you gain complete control over your will. Be persistent, no matter how slowly you may at first have to move. With persistence will come success. If you select your mastermind group with care, you will have in it at least one person who will aid you in the development of persistence. Some men who have accumulated great fortunes did so because of necessity. They developed the habit of persistence because they were so closely driven by circumstances that they had to become persistent. There is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this, and it will hearten you in the beginning when the going may seem difficult and slow. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up toward the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears that there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test men through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, "Bravo, I knew you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing a persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade. Those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they are pursuing. That is not all. They receive something indefinitely more important than material compensation, the knowledge that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. There are exceptions to this rule. A few people know from experience the soundness of persistence. They are the ones who have not accepted defeat as being anything more than temporary. They are the ones whose desires are so permanently applied that defeat is finally changed into victory. We who stand on the sidelines of life see the overwhelmingly large number who go down in defeat, never to rise again. We see the few who take the punishment of defeat as an urge to greater effort. These, fortunately, never learn to accept life's reverse gear. But what we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is the silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who fight on the face of discouragement. If we speak of this power at all, we call it persistence and let it go at that. One thing we all know, if one does not possess persistence, one does not achieve noteworthy success in any calling. All right, I'll pass it on to somebody else. I can't see the gallery. Let's see. Anybody else want to read?
I could read in 3 minutes. Tell you what, I'll take this.
I can pick up now.
And I'll pick it up after you did.
You got it, Derek. As these lines are being written, I look up from my work and I see before me, less than a block away, the great mysterious Broadway, the graveyard of dead hopes, and the front porch of opportunity. From all over the world, people have come to Broadway seeking fame, fortune, power, love, and whatever it is that human beings call success. Once in a great while, someone steps out from the long procession of seekers, and the world hears that another person has mastered Broadway. But Broadway is not easily nor quickly conquered. She acknowledges talent, recognizes genius, pays off in money, and after one has refused to quit, then we know he has discovered the secret of how to conquer Broadway. The secret is always inseparably attached to one word: persistence. The secret is told in the struggle of Fannie Hurst, whose persistence conquered the Great White Way. She came to New York in 1915 to convert writing into riches. The conversion did not come quickly, but it came. For 4 years, Miss Hurst learned about the sidewalks of New York. From firsthand experience, she spent her days laboring and her nights hoping. When hope grew dim, she did not say, "All right, Broadway, you win." She said, "Very well, Broadway. You may whip some, but not me. I'm going to force you to give up." One publisher, the Saturday Evening Post, sent her 36 rejection slips before she broke the ice and got a story across. The average writer, like the average in other walks of life, would have given up the job when the first rejection slip came. She pounded the pavements for 4 more years to the tune of the publisher's no, because she was so determined to win. Then came the payoff. The spell had been broken. The unseen guide had tested Fannie Hurst, and she could take it. From that time, the publishers made a beaten path to her door. Money came so fast she hardly had time to count it. Then the moving picture men discovered her, and more money came, not in small change, but in floods. The moving picture writes, to her last novel, Great Laughter, brought 100,000, said to be the highest price ever paid by a story before a publisher. Her royalties from the sale of this book probably will run much more. Briefly, you have a description of what persistence is capable of achieving. Fannie Hurst is no exception. Wherever men and women accumulate great riches, you may be sure they first acquired persistence. Broadway will give any beggar a cup of coffee and a sandwich, but it demands persistence for those who go after big stakes. Kate Smith will say amen when she reads this. For years, she sang without money and without price before any microphone she could reach. Broadway said to her, "Come and get it if you can take it." She did take it until one happy day, Broadway got tired and said, what's the use? You don't know when you're whipped. So name your price and go to work in earnest. Miss Smith named her price. It was plenty. Anyway, a way up in figures so high that one's week's salary is far more than most make in a whole year. You ready, Derek?
Yes, I am ready.
All
right.
right.
Okay. Verily, it pays to be persistent. And here is an encouraging statement which carries with it a suggestion of great significance. Thousands of singers who excel Kate Smith are walking up and down Broadway looking for a break without success. Countless others have come and gone. Many of them sang well enough, but they failed to make the grade because they lacked the courage to keep on keeping on until Broadway became tired of turning them away. Persistence is a state of mind. Therefore, it can be cultivated. Like all states of mind, persistence is based upon definite causes, among them these: a definiteness of purpose. Knowing what one wants is the first and perhaps the most important step toward the development of persistence. A strong motive forces one to surmount many difficulties. Desire. It is comparatively easy to acquire and to maintain persistence if pursuing the object of intense desire. Self-reliance, belief in one's ability to carry out a plan, encourages one to follow the plan through with persistence. Self-reliance can be developed through the principle described in the chapter of autosuggestion. Definiteness of plans, organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, encourage persistence. Accurate knowledge, knowing that one's plans are sound, based upon experience or observation, encourages persistence. Guessing instead of knowing destroys persistence. Cooperation, sympathy, understanding, harmonious cooperation with others tend to develop persistence. Willpower, the habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose, leads to persistence. Habit. Persistence is the direct result of habit. The mind absorbs and becomes a part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetition of CWT8 of courage. I don't know what that is. Cut 8. CW8.
That'd be a typo.
Oh, okay. Everyone who has seen active service in the war knows this. Before leaving the subject of persistence, take inventory of yourself and determine in what particular, if any, you are lacking in this essential quality. Measure yourself courageously, point by point, and see how many of the 8 factors of persistence you lack. The analysis may lead to discoveries which will give you a new grip on yourself. Symptoms of lack of persistence. Here you will find the real enemies which stand between you and noteworthy achievement. Here you will find not only the symptoms indicating weakness of persistence, but also the deeply seated subconscious causes of these weaknesses. Study the list carefully. Face yourself squarely if you really wish to know who you are and what you are capable of doing. These are the weaknesses which must be mastered by all who accumulate riches. 1, failure to recognize and to clearly define exactly what one wants. Procrastination, with or without cause, usually backed up by a formidable array of alibis and excuses. Lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. Indecision, the habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. The habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for the solution of problems. Self-satisfaction. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. Indifference, usually reflected in one's readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. The habit of blaming others for one's mistakes and accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. Weakness of desire due to neglect in the choice of motives that impel action. Willingness, even eagerness to quit at the first sign of defeat based upon one or more of the 6 basic fears. Lack of organized plans placed in writing where they may be analyzed, the habit of neglecting to move on ideas and to grasp opportunities when it presents itself, wishing instead of willing, the habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches, general absence of ambition to be, to do, and to own. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling and endeavoring to drive sharp bargains. Fear of criticism, failure to create plans and to put them in action because of what other people will think, do, is say. These enemies belong at the head of the list because it generally exists in one's subconscious mind where its presence is not recognized. See the 6 basic fears in a later chapter. Let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The majority of people permit relatives, friends, and the public at large to so influence them that they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. Huge numbers of people make mistakes in marriage, stand by the bargain, or go through life miserable and unhappy because they fear criticism, which may follow if they correct, which may follow if they correct the mistake. Anyone who has submitted to this form of fear knows the irreparable damage it does by destroying ambition, self-reliance, and the desire to achieve. Millions of people neglect to acquire belated educations after having left school because they fear criticism. Countless numbers of men and women, both young and old, permit relatives to wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear criticism. Duty does not require any person to submit to the destruction of his personal ambitions and the right to live his own life in his own way. People refuse to take chances in business because they fear the criticism which may follow if they fail. The fear of criticism in such cases is stronger than the desire of success. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves or even neglect selecting a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends who may say Don't aim too high. People will think you are crazy. When Andrew Carnegie suggested that I devote 20 years to the organizations of a philosophy of individual achievement, my first impulse of thought was fear of what people might say. The suggestion set up a goal for me, far out of the proportion to any I had ever conceived. As quick as a flash, my mind began to create alibis and excuses, all of them traceable to the inherent fear of criticism. Something inside me said, you can't do it. The job is too big, requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you? How will you earn a living? No one has ever organized a philosophy of success. What right you have to believe that you can do it? Who are you, anyway, to aim so high? Remember your humble birth. What do you know about philosophy? People will think you're crazy, and they did. Why hasn't some other person done this before now? These and many other questions flashed into my mind and demanded attention. It seemed as if the whole world has suddenly turned its attention to me with the purpose of ridiculing me into giving up on all desire to carry out Mr. Carnegie's suggestion. I had a fine opportunity then and there to kill off ambition before it gained control of me. Later in life, after having analyzed thousands of people, I discovered that most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through definite plans of immediate action. The time to nurse an idea is at the birth of it, at the time of its birth. Every minute it lives gives a better chance of surviving. The fear of criticism is at the bottom of the destruction of most ideas which never reach the planning and action stage. Many people believe the material success is the result of favorable breaks. There is an element of ground for the belief, but those dependent entirely upon luck are nearly always disappointed because they overlook another important factor which must be present before one can be assured success. It is the knowledge with which favorable breaks can be made to order. During the Depression, W.C. Fields, the comedian, lost all of his money and found himself without income, without a job, and his means of living, earning and living, vaudeville, no longer existed. Moreover, he was past 60 when many men considered themselves old. He was so eager to stage a comeback that he offered to work without pay in a new field, movies. In addition to his other troubles, he fell and injured his neck. Too many that would have been the place to give up and quit. But Fields was persistent. He knew that if he carried on, he would get the break sooner or later. He did get them, and not by chance. Marie Dressler found herself down and out with her money gone and with no job when she was about 60. She too went after the breaks and got them. Her persistence brought an astounding triumph late in life, long beyond the age that most men and women are done with ambition to achieve. Eddie Cantor lost his money in 1929 stock crash, but he still had his persistence and his courage. With these plus two prominent eyes, he exploited himself back into an income of $10,000 a week. Verily, if one has persistence, one can get along very well without many other qualities. The only break anyone can afford to rely upon is a self-made break. These come through the application of persistence. The starting point is the definiteness of purpose. Examine the first 100 people you meet. Ask them what they want most in life. 98 of them will not be able to tell you. If you press them for an answer, some will say security. Many will say money. A few will say happiness. Others will say fame and power. And still others will say social recognition, ease in living, ability to sing, dance, write. But none of them will be able to define these terms and give the slightest indication of a plan by which they hope to attain these vaguely expressed wishes. Riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans backed by definite desires through constant persistence. All right. Somebody else want to jump in?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Hey, Derek, it's
It's
me, Nia.
Hey.
Christina's the only one that hasn't read besides me as well, right? So I could just divvy up the remainder into two
Go ahead,
parts.
read as much as you want, girl.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you. How to develop persistence. There are 4 simple steps which lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, and but little time of effort. The necessary steps are 1, a definite purpose backed by burning desire for its fulfillment. 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. 3, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influence, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. 4, a friendly alliance with 1 or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. These 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. The entire purpose of the 13 principles of this philosophy is to enable one to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. These are the steps by which one may control one's economic destiny. They are the steps that lead to freedom and independence of thought. They are the steps that lead to riches in small or great quantities. They lead the way to power, fame, and worldly recognition. They are the 4 steps which guarantee favorable breaks. They are the steps that convert dreams into physical realities. They lead also to the master of fear, discouragement, indifference. There is a magnificent reward for all who learn to take these 4 steps. It is the privilege of writing one's own ticket and of making life yield whatever price is asked. I have no way of knowing the facts, but I venture to conjecture that Mrs. Wallace Simpson's great love for a man was not accidental, nor the result of favorable breaks alone. There was a burning desire, a careful searching at every step of the way. Her first duty was to love. What is the greatest thing on earth? The master called it love, not man-made rules, criticism, bitterness, slander, or political marriages, a love. She knew what she wanted, not after she met the Prince of Wales, but long before that. Twice when she had failed to find it, she had the courage to continue her search. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not be false to any man. Her rise from obscurity was of the slow, progressive, persistent order, but it was sure. She triumphed over unbelievably long odds. And no matter who you are or what you think of Wallace Simpson, or the king who gave up his crown for her love, she is an astounding example of applied persistence, an instructor on the rules of self-determination, from whom the entire world might profitably take lessons. When you think of Wallace Simpson, think of one who knew what she wanted and shook the greatest empire on earth to get it. Women who complain that this is a man's world, that women do not have an equal chance to win, owe it to themselves to study carefully the life of this unusual woman, who, at an age which most women consider old, captured the affections of the most desirable bachelor in the entire world. And what of King Edward? What lesson may we learn from his part in the world's greatest drama of recent times? Did he pay too high of a price for the affections of the woman of his choice? Surely no one but he can give the correct answer. The rest of us can only conjecture. This much we know. The king came into the world without his own consent. He was born to great riches without requesting them. He was persistently sought in marriage. Politicians and statesmen throughout Europe tossed dowagers and princesses at his feet. Because he was the firstborn of his parents, he inherited the crown, which he did not seek and perhaps did not desire. For more than 40 years, he was not a free agent, could not live his life in his own way, had but little privacy, and finally assumed duties inflicted upon him when he ascended the throne. Some will say, with all these blessings, King Edward should have found peace of mind, contentment, and joy of living. The truth is that back of all the privileges of a crown, all the money, the fame, and the power inherited by King Edward, there was an emptiness which could be filled only by love. His greatest desire was for love. Long before he met Wallis Simpson, he doubtless felt this great universal emotion tugging at the strings of his heart, beating upon the door of his soul and crying out for expression. And when he met a kindred spirit crying out for this same holy privilege of expression, he recognized it, and without fear or apology, opened his heart and bade it enter. All the scandal mongers in the world cannot destroy the beauty of this international drama through which two people found love, had the courage to face open criticism, and renounced all else to give it holy expression. King Edward's decision to give up the crown of the world's most powerful empire for the privilege of going the remainder of the way through life with the woman of his choice was a decision that required courage. The decision also had a price, but who has the right to say the price was too great? Surely not he who said it. He among you who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. As a suggestion to any evil-minded person who chooses to find fault with the Duke of Windsor because his desire was for love, and for openly declaring his love for Wallis Simpson and giving up his throne for her, let it be remembered that the open declaration was not essential. He could have followed the custom of clandestine liaison, which has prevailed in Europe for centuries, without giving up either his throne or the woman of his choice, and there would have been no complaint from either church or laity. But this unusual man was built of sterner stuff. His love was clean. It was deep and sincere. It represented the one thing that above all else he truly desired. Therefore, he took what he wanted and paid the price demanded. If Europe had been blessed with more rulers with the human heart and the traits of honesty of ex-King Edward for the past century, the unfortunate hemisphere now seething with greed, hate, lust, political connivance, and threats of war would have a different and a better story to tell. A story in which love and not hate would rule. In the words of Stuart Austin Weir, we raise our cup and drink this toast to ex-King Edward and Wallis Simpson. So I will stop there if that's okay. About 2 pages left, so whoever wants to take it up from here.
I can't read
Want to finish
because
up, Dave?
I have the phone.
Sure. Was it at the top of the page? Blessed is the man who,
Yes, sir.
all right. Blessed is the man who has come to know that our muted thoughts are our sweetest thoughts. Blessed is the man who from the blackest depths can see the luminous figure of love, and singing, say, sweeter far than uttered lays are the thoughts I have of you. In these words, we pay tribute to the two people who, more than all others of modern times, have been the victims of criticism and the recipients of abuse because they found life's greatest treasure and claimed it. Mrs. Simpson read and approved this analysis. Most of the world will applaud the Duke of Windsor and Wallis Simpson because of their persistence in searching until they found life's greatest reward. All of us can profit by following their example in our own search for that which we demand of life. What mystical power gives to men of persistence the capacity to master difficulties? Does the quality of persistence set up in one's mind some form of spiritual, mental, or chemical activity which gives one access to supernatural forces? Does infinite intelligence throw itself on the side of the person who still fights on after the battle has been lost, with the whole world on the opposing side? These and many other similar questions have arisen in my mind as I have observed men like Henry Ford, who started at scratch and built an industrial empire of huge proportions with little else in the way of a beginning but persistence. Or Thomas A. Edison, who with less than 3 months of schooling became the world's leading inventor and converted persistence into the talking machine, the moving picture machine, and the incandescent light, to say nothing of 600 other useful inventions. I had the happy privilege of analyzing both Mr. Edison and Mr. Ford year by year over a long period of years, and therefore the opportunity to study them at close range. So I speak from actual knowledge when I say that I found no quality save persistence in either of them that even remotely suggested the major source of their stupendous achievements. As one makes an impartial study of the prophets, philosophers, miracle men, and religious leaders of the past, one is drawn to the inevitable conclusion that persistence, concentration of effort, and definiteness of purpose were the major sources of their achievements. Consider, for example, the strange and fascinating story of Muhammad. Analyze his life, compare him with men of achievement in this modern age of industry and finance, and observe how they have one outstanding trait in common: persistence. If you are keenly interested in studying the strange power which gives potency to persistence, read a biography of Muhammad, especially the one by Asad Bey. This brief review of that book by Thomas Sugrue in the Herald Tribune will provide a preview of the rare treat in store for those who take the time to read the entire story of one of the most astounding examples of the power of persistence known to civilization. The Last Great Prophet, reviewed by Thomas Sugrue. Muhammad was a prophet, but he never performed a miracle. He was not a mystic. He had no formal schooling. He did not begin his mission until he was 40. When he announced that he was the messenger of God, bringing word of the true religion, he was ridiculed and labeled a lunatic. Children tripped him and women threw filth upon him. He was banished from his native city, Mecca, and his followers were stripped of their worldly goods and sent into the desert after him. When he had been preaching 10 years, he had nothing to show for it but banishment, poverty, and ridicule. Yet, before another 10 years had passed, he was the dictator of all Arabia, ruler of Mecca, and the head of a new world religion, which was to sweep to the Danube and the Pyrenees before exhausting the impetus he gave it. That impetus was threefold: the power of words, the efficacy of prayer, and the man's kinship with God. His career never made sense. Muhammad was born to impoverished members of a leading family of Mecca. Because Mecca, the crossroads of the world, home of the magic stone called the Kaaba, great city of trade and the center of trade routes, was unsanitary, its children were sent to be raised in the desert by Bedouins. Muhammad was thus nurtured, drawing strength and health from the milk of nomad, vicarious mothers. He tended sheep and soon hired out to a rich widow as leader of her caravans. He traveled to all parts of the Eastern world, talked with many men of diverse beliefs, and observed the decline of Christianity into wearing sects. When he was 28, Khadija, the widow, looked upon him with favor and married him. Her father would have objected to such a marriage, so she got him drunk and held him up while he gave the paternal blessing. For the next 12 years, Muhammad lived as a rich and respected and very shrewd trader. Then he took to wandering in the desert, and one day he returned with the first verse of the Quran and told Khadija that the archangel Gabriel had appeared to him and said that he was to be the messenger of God. The Quran, the revealed word of God, was the closest thing to a miracle in Muhammad's life. He had not been a poet, he had no gift of words. Yet the verses of the Quran, as he received them and recited them to be faithful, were better than any verses which the professional poets of the tribes could produce. This to the Arabs was a miracle. To them, the gift of words was the greatest gift. The poet was all powerful. In addition, the Quran said that all men were equal before God, that the world should be a democratic state, Islam. It was the political heresy, plus Muhammad's desire to destroy all the 360 idols in the courtyard of the Kaaba, which brought about his banishment. The idols brought the desert tribes to Mecca, and that meant trade. So the businessmen of Mecca, the capitalists of which he had been one, set upon Muhammad. Then he retreated to the desert and demanded sovereignty over the world. The rise of Islam had begun. Out of the desert came a flame which would not be extinguished, a democratic army fighting as a unit and prepared to die without wincing. Muhammad had invited the Jews and Christians to join him, for he was not building a new religion. He was calling all who believed in one God to join in a single faith. If the Jews and Christians had accepted his invitation, Islam would have conquered the world. They didn't. They would not even accept Muhammad's invitation of humane warfare. When the armies of the Prophet entered Jerusalem, not a single person was killed because of his faith. When the Crusaders entered the city, centuries later, not a Muslim man, woman, or child was spared. But the Christians did accept one Muslim idea, the place of learning, the university.
Awesome. Woo, that was a lot. Hey, good stuff. I mean, even though I've read it, I've heard it, I listened to it on audio, there's still so much that I catch in here that just it leads so true to, doesn't matter how many times you read something or movies that you watch, or the teacher tells you something, if you're not in the right vibration or energy or space or time to hear what that is, you just hear it. Again, back to just so many things within there that just kept ringing, kind of what with our text back and forth, Christina, earlier, just about when I was talking about, the mind is how you think. And you said the decision, it's all of this, right? So you have to have all these little pieces to make it all work. It's kind of like then all the instructions to bake a cake. If you leave out certain ones or you don't, because you don't like them or you don't think they're important, you don't get the cake. You get something else. I don't know what you get, but it's not cake. And it could be something just as little as a little bit of, baking powder or baking, whatever it is. It's like, it doesn't make it work. And I think it's for us to really understand that this chapter on persistence is everything. I mean, they all are. But I believe persistence falls into what I told Christina, was like, it's the action. It's not just the decision. It's the action, because you can decide all you want. But if you don't have the action, which goes into the persistence, is, where it stops. We do it a little bit, and then life gets in the way, it gets messy, the devil shows up on our shoulder and we start listening to the devil, and we're like, now we're 3-4 days out of what we were persistent and consistent and taking action on, and it throws us back. And even though it takes a little time to get that momentum built back up, that's where we have to get that momentum, just get back on that train and get back on that, the persistence. Like, because we know, back to where we started this first, the call in the beginning, we know if this is something that we really like, we really love, it's really good for us or great or amazing, and we're not doing it, we need to get back to doing it. So that was my take.
I would say that even to participate in this incredible study group takes persistence.
Yes.
Because because we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what's down the road. We don't know what is in the next moment. But what we do know when we entered into this space is that we were longing to go somewhere with our lives in some meaningful way. So either way, if you relent and back away, or if you press through, it's really it boils down to what's in that inner voice, that inner voice, that inner heart. I like the story here today because they talk about there's so many words that come out of this reading, but the impact of a word like love. When you think about the word love, that word has so much in it that literally could be like multiple universes.
Yes.
Literally, I saw something, or I think it was on news, and they were talking about the collision of two galaxies, and they had pictures of this, and this was real world. It just took place. But when I think about the quantum effect of these ideas, these thoughts, these principles, and I've heard it from a time I was a little kid that we only use a mere fraction of our mind. With a mere fraction, all the great discoveries that we know of have occurred with just not even we haven't even gotten into the shallow end of the pool. We just dipped a toe in it. So I just know that it's persistence in my thoughts, it's persistence in my my actions, it's persistence in my willpower, it's persistence in discovering what I need.
Yes.
And with that, all those elements that we have been learning up to this point, each one kicks in, right?
Yeah.
I face a situation, make a decision. I face a situation, think about my belief. I face a decision, I face a situation, take action. I mean, it's just all these are just interlocking, interacting levers that really hoist us through life. And then the added juncture is that this group here is like that premium gasoline that you get at the pump.
That's right.
So you burn efficient, you burn in the high octane. And so
Yes.
that's just my initial thoughts in this moment right now.
I love it, brother. Anyone else like to share? Nia.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Of course.
There were like a lot of parts that I really liked that you both said. Derek, like I've known Derek for a little bit now, and we actually met in a business that I believe neither of us are involved in anymore. We still have the route of entrepreneurship and we still do it, but I feel like just what this chapter was like really honing in on, like how you said, Derek, is like just starting. Like, I mean, despite neither of us being involved in that maybe one specific business, we're still continuing to compound upon how we met and what we were doing originally. And so maybe we're not at that specific place anymore, but I mean, we're just growing from where we both met. We've grown so much in the year that I've known him, and we've expanded upon our businesses, and just taking that first step is like what it really took. But I also really like the parts about love as well. Like Derek said, I think, like how you said, Dom, if you're just not open to receiving something at a time, it doesn't matter how many times you hear it or see it, it just won't click until you're in that place to receive it. And so for the past several years, I've had people around me really express love and express the importance of love, whether it be personal relationships, professional, intimate. People have just been kind of in my face about it, like love is the most important thing. And I never like I mean, I get it, and like I'm a very like emotional person, so I like believe it, but I never really like felt it. Like I didn't understand even the science behind it, just the literally vibrating higher, and this is how you can have things manifest. And so love is just so important, and just going into our hobbies or our career fields or the things that we want to have success in, going in with love and like pure intentions, I just find it to be so valuable. And I think this chapter is really important to me because I think not, I feel like personally, I kind of have like a very relentless attitude, but I'm somebody that also wants to see those results. I want to hit those benchmarks. I want to see like tangible results. And I'm not somebody that really records my progress. So maybe that's my own fault. But you know, hitting those roadblocks, and it's so difficult for me sometimes because I'm like, "Ugh, like I wish I was there. I wish I was just, I'm, you know, enjoying the journey is something that's kind of hard for me. But keeping that persistence, that relentless attitude. In the book, it said Napoleon Hill built this book for 20 years.
That's
I
right.
mean, I'm just a little over 20 years alive. Like I'm 24.
Yeah.
So I mean, just I believe it's in a later chapter. I'm almost personally done with the book, but I can't wait to reread it. But it talked there. I don't believe it was this chapter, but it was talking about how people hit their stride well after 40. Many people, many millionaires hit their stride well after 40. And I just find that to be so interesting because that means these people that really hit their stride and made their success, I mean, they really were and are experts in their field. They had to hone in on their craft. They had to build it. They had to take in the time. And so for me who wants something like, you know, like that, I have to like understand that I have to be a part of the journey. I have to be relentless. I have to be persistent. And I can't let these roadblocks be, you know, my downfall. They're challenges, but, you know, I think about like quotes that say you're on the right path when you start hitting roadblocks. And I think it's very, that's what starts weaning out the crowd. You know, some people give up, but I'm trying to really reconfigure my brain to say, this is how I know I'm doing it. When I fail, I'm on the right path. I'm building, I'm growing, and I'm being relentless. But above all, I'm being persistent. And I'm trying to do things with my heart and do it with pure intentions and build great relationships. And I mean, I'm only here because I have a great relationship with Derek. He sends me because we're personally in different time zones, but every Wednesday I was off last week because I have COVID. I still have COVID, but I slept and he still sent me the message anyway. And this week he still sent me the message anyway for the Zoom call. And just, you know, building your village and your army and your people to support you, to keep you on track for your goals. Like I find that to be so valuable. And like to say like I love like Derek, I really do, and I care for him, and I want him to see him be successful. I know he wants that for me. And just whether it be a Zoom call or something inspirational, you know, I know he's got my back, and that's something that keeps me persistent and relentless and just able to love what I do and to love the journey. And so I really enjoyed this chapter. I think it was really great. And yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I love it, Nia. All of what you just said, man, at 24 years old and you have this mindset and you have someone like Derek. I mean, I just met Derek too, but I know that Derek's put in the work. I know he's put in the time, the effort, the persistence, and has a, as we all do, I know we all do on here, an insatiable appetite to learn more, to help more. And the word love, what you said, love is the strongest and most powerful word on the planet, maybe outside of truth. But I think believe within truth, there's love. So, but the one that you missed, Nia, and please work on this because so many don't, and so many have a problem, and it's hard to do. And that took me a long time. Work on self-love. Self-love and build up yourself from the inside out where you don't need any other love. It'll come, it'll attract to you. You'll have to beat it away. But work on that self-love. And that comes in so many different forms. And I know that, and I'm not saying that you don't, we all have to do it. So keep doing self-love. The other one is track your progress. Yes, write everything down. So your goals, don't just write down goals and dreams, write down deadlines.
Yes.
Because if you have open-ended, Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I definitely like all of what you said. Firstly, yeah, I'm very involved in Web3 specifically. So I spend a lot of time on Twitter, on Discord, on Telegram, on all these different apps connecting with people. And in this space that I'm a full-time Web3 entrepreneur. I have been for 9 months. I left my 9 to 5 for it. And I wouldn't say I came into this space out of fear, but I'm now connecting with people, like you said, out of love. And me connecting with these people has been able for me to just find these different gifts I have, these different passions I have, this different self-love I have that I didn't have for myself before. And I wouldn't say I had like self-hate. I just don't,
Right.
like you said, it's something that has to be practiced. And,
Yeah.
yes, being with you and hearing Christina, like I really admire her when she speaks in the spaces. Like I always relate to her, and just everybody here in the Zoom. I think it's just really great. And that you're right. It is something I am trying to practice. And you're right.
Don't
I think
try. Don't try. Take the word
have
try out
to,
of you're
have to.
doing.
You know what? I will. I'm
I
gonna do it
am.
though. I
It's
am doing it. You're right. Every day I'm doing it, And you're right. Even just that small little shift.
it is.
I really miss Bob Proctor, but he's he's the one that taught me about present tense and about saying like my affirmations and my goals. Like I am a professional soccer
Yes.
player. Like I'm manifesting it, and I having it in real time and having it in the present. Like that's so important. So I'm tracking my progress more often. I'm writing down, and I'm practicing more self-love. You're right. I'm gonna be a queen at these things, and I'm gonna do
Yes.
it every
Gonna
single
slay
day.
it.
Well, I'm gonna jump in here just for a split second. I'm just gonna add just a little piece to it, but I will say that number one, yes, Nia and I was in this business together, but let me tell you, I didn't know Nia, she didn't know me, but I, the older gentleman in the group, um, it was some stuff. It was a lot of fast moving material information that was way over my head, and out of nowhere, like I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to process. I'm not looking at barriers. I'm looking at solutions. I'm looking at the 3 foot goal. I'm trying to find it. Here comes Nia out of nowhere, offering to help. That gentle act of kindness
Yes.
is what connected
Yes.
her and I. It was just, not that I was seeking it, but she just out of the goodness of her being offered it without condition. And that's rare. I've lived long enough. I'm triple your age, right? And I have been around the block, and I can definitely tell you, it doesn't come very often. I haven't seen it. Let's put it like that. So I say this, and I said this to her, and just know this, Nia, that we're pouring into you because we're all connected. That your name, Nia, means purpose. Her last name means flow. What's a fountain? When you think of a fountain.
Hmm.
So she, by definition, has come into a being that is serving out its purpose. And much of what you may believe is out there is in you
Yes.
now. And it's making its impact now because I am living proof of that. So I just want to say that.
Awesome.
And I love you too.
Hey, Dom.
Christina,
Yeah, me, I always got to put my 2 cents in.
want to hear it. That's why we're here.
Okay. I got a lot of things out of this, a lot. So hopefully I can get it all out. So the one thing, and I'm not good with names, but they spoke on a woman in this chapter and her relentlessness about looking for love, even as she got older. So the one thing I got from that was, because it's something I heard and saw earlier today in some content. In order to be free, I've got to be me.
Yes.
So she was being who she was all the way.
Yep.
If I want to be free, I've got to be me. So truly know who you are and what you want. Okay. Secondly, what I got was the gentleman, I think it was the one that she fell in love with. True story that he had to leave his crown, right? So in order to get something, what are you willing to give up? Right? He gave up royalty for love. That was, wow, that really hit me. The criticism. Oftentimes, people won't make a move because they're afraid of being criticized and the criticism. So that I'm still working on that in a portion of the business that you know about, Dom. When it comes for asking for customers. So that's something that needs work. I think this chapter has helped me with that. I think it's given me the truth behind the fact that I can do it authentically now. But I think it teaches us, this is teaching us about people, not only ourselves, but about people. So knowing that we already know it's a small percentage of people, 3%, that will continue the fight to succeed, right? And I mean, actually get there. It's a small percentage. So knowing that most people won't make a move because of criticism will help us to move past that and not get emotionally caught up in it, right?
Absolutely.
And what else? Persistence. So persistence and love, like Neil was talking about love, and everybody actually, love will keep you persistent. What are you persistent about? I can look at my life and know what I've been persistent about. And I don't have to beat myself up, you know? I've been very persistent about family, about relationships, about growing myself, and persistent about why I do what I do. You know, it's yes, it is for my family and us all to benefit from financially. I'm just going to say it. I want to know what it's like not to have to put myself last when going shopping. For once, you know, I want to know, I want to travel. I like some of the finer things. There's nothing wrong with that. But also tonight in talking with Kevin, I said to my son, I said, we are learning the truth. And I want to share this with everybody because my greatest struggle in life, I bought into the belief that I was just an average person, that I got average grades in high school and I didn't like school. I didn't go to college because I wanted to be a nurse, but I didn't have the belief in myself. So for years, I always thought I wasn't enough to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And now I know it's simply not true. It's not true. And I want to share this with everybody because I believe people do struggle because for lack of knowledge, they have false beliefs of who they are. So people are waiting for us. We have to show up. This session isn't just for us. We have to share it with others. And that's what I'm persistent about. I mean, some of the things.
Awesome. Well, it goes exactly that, what Derek said about Nia, like she just showed up for him. He wasn't asking, she wasn't looking for anything in return. He wasn't looking for anything other than I'm lost, I need help in whatever that is. And that's where we show up in other people's lives. Again, it's not about all the knowledge that we can acquire and be knowledge junkies. I mean, unless you're going on you know, TV and you're going to go on some game shows that to show off all of your knowledge. Other than that, it's sharing that knowledge. It's helping others. It's, you know, taking that time out. You know, building relationships takes a long time. You know, you can't do that in just one conversation. You can't do it in one Zoom. You can't do it in one coffee meet. You can't do it in one or two or three or whatever. It's that consistent and persistent, you know, again, back to, you know, what's ringing clear is acknowledgement. People want to be heard. People want to be, they want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged in some way. And a thank you, and I appreciate you, and then I see you, and I care about you, and then I love you, and whatever it is goes a long way. You just bought yourself 6 months with whoever that is. Because it's true. And it doesn't have to be, most people are waiting for the other side of it. You're waiting for the acknowledgement. I'm not going to reach out to them. I reached out to them before, whatever it is. But that's not what it is. We never know what's going on in people's lives. We don't know, you know, all the things that have happened since the last time you spoke to that person. And you send them a little note, I tell you right now, it lights you up. Doesn't it light you up when someone, yeah, I just was thinking about you. Just want to hope you have an amazing day. That's all it took. And that just changed your day already. You could have started it off, you know, in a car accident, but someone sends you that, boom, it just shifts. Or you're already having a great day and someone sends you that, like, man, you're really charged up. Now you're just it's gonna snowball. So it's all the little things. We just have to do them. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's the action. What's up, Dave? What you got?
Man, I wrote down so much, so I'll try not to be all over the place. But
All right.
before I get into it, I was just thinking my daughter, just a little story, not necessarily on topic, but like she's got a sleepover plan. We got a sleepover plan for her on Friday at a friend's house, you know, she's so excited about it. She's 7.5. And she's known about it for like a week. And I've had her mom was out of town, so I've had her more than I typically have her. So anyway, it's like every day I'm taking her to school, or like every time I interact with her, she's just like, oh, I'm so excited for, you know, my sleepover coming up in like a week or whatever. I'm like, that's great, baby. But what about, how was today? You know, so I'm like, every time I like try to bring it back to today, and like, well, what did you enjoy about today? And what's, you know, and I don't know, it's just funny. Just wanted to kind of mention that. And she, yeah, she's obviously, you know, kind of one track mind, but it's funny. I just kind of try to bring her back to the present, and think if I keep doing it, you know, if I'm persistent, she'll come around. But other than that, speaking of persistence, this one for me is, I feel like it's the most important, like in achieving in becoming successful in really almost anything. Because, you know, like all the steps, like having the idea, making a decision, coming up with a plan, putting it into action, all of that, you know, that doesn't need to take a lot of time. Persistence in like getting to your goal or whatever it is you're going for, you know, that's where like your inner character starts to get really tested. And anybody can come up with an idea, you know, and make a decision. I mean, I know that I'm not making light of those steps, but you know, this one is like the grinding to get to the real goal, you know, putting in the work, like you were saying. So I don't know, that this one for me is a huge one. It's also the one that I think most people struggle with. I don't know, I know I do a lot, struggle with it. And this is kind of going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but persistence for me, I'm thinking about it a lot recently because I'm trying to come up with a personal health plan that I feel good about. Don, which I need to talk to you about.
Yes, sir.
But that one, obviously persistence is like huge, and being able to, we can come up with a plan, but I'm the only one that can do it and, achieve those goals through persistence. The other thing with persistence that I've been thinking about, Don recommended a book called Life Force by Tony Robbins. I don't know if anybody's read it, but man, that all about like
Get it.
regenerative medicine and, stem cell research, all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely fascinating, like unbelievable. And, they basically, it's not far-fetched that we're not far off from, with stem cell and regenerative medicine, where everything's going, where, we could literally reverse aging and get to a point where it's not far-fetched to have, I don't know, 25, 50, 100 years added to your life. And persistence in a health plan for me, I'm starting to realize it's like, that is the key, because the longer I can keep myself going, like, to be able to get to this point where this is mainstream and you can extend your life to be able to share all these things that we need to share. Now that we can share it, we need to be around to share it. And so I'm just like thinking how important, my health plan is because of that. Like, I don't want to miss the cutoff by a couple of years, I die and then it's like cured cancer. We're all good, So I don't know. I'm also very much like, life's going to happen, not that you don't go out and make it happen, but, I'm good with the direction that anything goes. I think if we keep a good, positive mental attitude and do exactly what we're doing, how can you lose?
You can't.
You
can't.
But those were the main things I wanted to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say a few
Reggie.
words about
Please.
persistence and achieving. And when you start out and you're on your mission or your goals, that there will be a lot of flack from the family members and friends and everyone else, because they size you up and they try to say, okay, you don't have this and you don't have that, and they don't know all the things about you, but they know a few things about you, and they start to see you in one way. But you have another goal, you have another dream that you want to do, and you're gonna have to be persistent, because they're gonna, whether it's the crabs in the barrel, whatever, you put them in there, only none can get out until, well, I won't go into that one. But in any case, you have to push yourself past the family and their friends and the naysayers. And you have to have your goal in mind, and you know where you're going. You have to plot your path and know how you're gonna get there even before you get there. So that, and they'll look back at you after the time and they ask, I didn't know you had it in you. I didn't know you could do that. And truth of the matter, I didn't know I could do it either until it was done. But I had the dream that I could do it, and I had the thoughts that I could do it, and I had my connection with God saying, do it. So I did it, and it came out good. So you can't let the family, anybody take you away from what you're supposed to do. You're put here for a mission, you follow that mission, and you complete it. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you,
You'll
Reggie.
be happy.
I love it. Yes. And you said a lot of powerful things right there, and that's it. It's really is, you put your plan together, like Dave said, a lot of these things can be done very quick and very, very fast with a decision, come up with an idea, make a plan, make a decision, but that persistence, and then cutting away all of the chatter, because you already have your plan together. You already have your, what you're going to do. They don't know that. They don't understand that. That's not for them to understand or know. That's for you to just keep going with that persistence and just fly, jump. That was the one thing I was going to say. I remember a little story long ago. Was 5 birds were sitting on a wire. 4 decided to fly away. How many were left? 5, because they decided. None of them actually took action. right? They just made the decision, I'm gonna fly. How many times do we make a decision to do something and then we don't do it? So whatever that is that we all know there's something right now on our heart's desire, on our mind, on our soul, whatever it is that we've been waiting to do. Whatever, for whatever reason, you've made a plan, you've decided you're going to do something that we haven't really done. You may have to go back a month, 2 months, 6 months to really dig out what that is that you made that decision to do that never got done. Or maybe you started it but didn't finish it. Back to Reggie, finish. We need to finish what we start.
Yeah.
We need to finish what we start because there's a reason we started it. There's a reason we started it. And there's a reason we were so passionate and fired up for whatever it was that we started. But then things get in the way, and then we didn't stay persistent. We didn't stay consistent. We didn't stay in that moment of when we decided we were going to do that, because life happened. Life happens, man.
Yeah. And you can't wait till everything gets right. A lot of times people will wait until, well, I need this, I need that.
Right.
All these things have to line up.
Right.
If you get started, the things will start lining up. Okay, so you have to start and believe. And when you do that and stay persistent, you'll win. You'll win.
Yes. Awesome, guys. I appreciate all of you. I love you all. I got to go make dinner for the family. They're on their way home.
All right.
I'm getting my text, cook my dinner. But no, again, seriously, like I really enjoy these nights. These Wednesday nights have been, a highlight of my week. We'll do other books after this too. I'm not done. I mean, we'll figure this out, because this group, we're going to grow this group organically. There's 46 people in the Telegram thing, but we've been persistent. We've been consistent, and that's what it takes. And that's really, one of the reasons why I started this group, was because I knew it'd hold me accountable to reading the book and taking the actions or what's in the book. And this is like my 9th time reading this book. So, and but again, it's for life. Bob Proctor, 62 years or whatever the heck. So I got some stem cells to go get. I got a health plan to stay on, because I got a lot more years to catch him.
Well, they did mention in the book, which excited me, the older they got, like past 40 or 50. Well, that gives me hope, Dominic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're good. We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. And, as long as we keep doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, and we keep on that track, and we give our thanks to God every night. I do it every night when I go to bed, and I do it every morning when I get up. And I ask him to, lead me in the direction that he needs me, and put the people in front of me that need to be, that need what I have, and let me recognize who they are. And man, they just keep coming faster and faster and faster. And it just is, man, just, one day at a time. And the one quote, and I'll leave you all with this because it was powerful. It's not even a quote as much as it is reality. And it said, live every day like it's your last, because one day it will be. Live every day like it's your last, because one day it will be. So do the things that you're supposed to do, make those calls that you're supposed to call, reach out, connect to those people that you're supposed to be connecting to, start that thing that you're supposed to be starting, finish that thing that you were supposed to finish. And I'm done. God bless. I love you all. Have a great night.